Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Dr. Grant Venerable joining us here today, and we are going to dive into, well, I know a little bit about brain frequencies he spoke about. If you're new to the show, new to the conversation, don't worry, we will catch you up. Let me first have the man of the hour and our professional of the year introduce himself. Grant?
Well, here's what the professional of the year has to say.
Tell us.
I'm referring back to the name Jubal, which is mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible.
Okay.
And Jubal was regarded as the father of music because he developed an instrument that could play two different voices at the same time. And it was really what we call a harmonica, where you'd have one, you breathe through one part of the harmonica and it makes a fluty sound, and another is like a string sound. And that's considered the earliest example of the pipe organ in Western history. And I want to jubile because of that.
Yeah.
That organ can do two different voicings at the same time.
Yeah.
And keep them distinct as well as unified together, played in unison. And they give you something like a harmony. So I'm going to just do a little reading from volume 1 in the introduction. Specifically, Jubal describes a whole, a WHOLE, as an entity made up of three parts or three halves, as my mentor used to say. Two of the halves are kept quite separate from one another, even while they are kept joined one to the other by the third half. Well, that gives you a signal. That's really paradoxical talk. And it's nonsensical talk, but it's perfectly logical talk in a holistic universe. The third half is virtually invisible. It is called the interface. Our skin, that covers our bodies, is that interface between us and everything that is not us.
Okay.
Yet it joins us to everything that is not us. So that's a little bit of a paradox there. This kind of quantum whole reality is mind-boggling to the usual Western way of thinking, which views all of reality through the lens of an either-or dual consciousness. This subject-object split consciousness has been the playing field of the mind-body problem since philosopher René Descartes, born 1596, proclaimed, "I think, therefore I am." And yet Descartes was not entirely an absolute either-or dualist. Jubal symbolizes a both and unified consciousness, as do the arts and sciences. It is reminiscent of ancient Druidic, African, and Asian yin-yang pagan cultural outlooks. Jubal also points to the possibility of wandering into altered states of consciousness, including unified whole conscious. Such wanderings may occur in deep meditation, hypnotic trance, and inadvertent shifts in the body's own neurochemical balance. But shifts may occur through time crossings with art, music, and dance experience. Yoga, marathon exercising like running, swimming, walking, crystals, or the intended ingestion of natural plant substances long known to shamans in indigenous cultures, like our Native American cultures, Native African cultures. These access channels to inner world wanderings are capable of shifting one's brain wave frequency from the normal reality of the awake logical, empirical, data beta state of consciousness, which is 14 to 40 cycles per second at which the brain vibrates. And it can go to deeper states. Descartes would have been enthralled by modern neuroscience. The alpha state takes us to a little lower frequency, 7.5 to 14 hertz. Now, normally we're up to 14 to 40 hertz. That's where you and I are talking right now.
Okay.
But if we could go to a lower, called the alpha state, this is associated with successful closed eye meditation, prayer, and deep relaxation. That is the gateway to the unconscious or the subconscious mind.
Wow.
Intuition is heightened here as the brainwave frequency slows to 7.5 hertz. That is the theta state.
Wow.
With its lower frequency range, 4 to 7.5 hertz. Hertz means cycles per second at which the brain is vibrating.
Okay.
This is associated with deep meditation, light sleep, and the REM, dream state. Now, REM stands for REM,
Oh, okay.
rapid eye movement. And if someone watches you while you're falling asleep, they will notice your eyelids begin to move. That's when you're going through the rapid eye movement dream state. This subconscious region is experienced in daily life only briefly as we pass into nightly sleep from alpha to theta. And while awakening from deep sleep in a still lower state called delta. In deepest dreamless sleep, brain waves descend below 4 cycles per second or 4 hertz to as low as 1/2 hertz. Here, the self enters the realm of the fully detached non-awareness of the unconscious. This is the gateway to universal mind and the collective unconscious, where healing is stimulated, as well as an ability to know things normally unknowable to the conscious intellect of the beta state. So we can go back and forth between beta, theta, delta. I have personally experienced anesthesia during outpatient procedures, only later realizing that my brain was flipping between theta and delta states as I slept. Any sense of time that I may have had collapsed as my trace awareness traveled between complete detachment and subliminally seeing my surroundings and hearing everything the surgical team was saying while they were doing surgery on me while I was in anesthesia.
Wow.
In this kind of experience, I'm close to Jubal. Jubal is the unifying interface between separate, seemingly dissimilar realms, between the technological beta realm and the artful intuitive of the alpha, theta, and delta realms. Jubal is also the interface between everyday normal moments and transcendent spiritual experience, between that which is fragmented and compartmentalized and that which is unified, between the visible secular, and the invisible divine, and between the empirical scientific and the hidden sacred. So those you see, there's Jubal is saying, okay, there's 2 states, folks, out there. One is very sensible to our physical senses, and the other is non-sensible to whatever we call intuition or our
Mm-hmm.
spiritual senses. Now we get to this is truly an appropriate function for Drupal, the algebraic entity given cultural Jubal's important role in Old Testament tradition as the father of art and all
Mm-hmm.
who played stringed instruments as the harp and the flute. As such, Jubal provides a dynamic interface enabling the harp and the flute to be played together at the same time. That's what the pipe organ does. But
Mm-hmm.
the big pipe organs can play hundreds of instruments together at the same time. Now, what does all this mean? That is the whole principle underlying my instrument of choice,
Mm.
the modern pipe organ, whose earliest version would be called a harmonica today.
Okay.
It enables the simultaneous playing together of at least two separate, very distinct types of musical sounds. This is the entire principle underlying life, 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 in which the physical self is kept carefully separate from, even while exquisitely joined to, everything that is not
Okay.
physical self. Now just hold on to that for a moment.
All right.
Physical with not physical. Now we have a few useful tools, both
Hmm.
vocabulary and meta language, for engaging the ideas and experiences in my memoir, particularly in this volume. We're now ready to discuss some crucial matters faced by all humans as stewards of planet Earth.
Wow.
But first, a brief visit to my father's venerable ancestors, and they're in the
Aw.
next chapter. If my mother's Scot heritage bequeathed me a natural vitality of heart, mind, chakras, and a hunger for higher education, which is my father's venerable heritage, it brought me the gift of a hunger to teach. Both intentions could only succeed through well-tuned heart and throat chakra connections. So here's the heart chakra, love and feeling. Here's the throat chakra, the chakra of the intellect and the intuition. And they work together, heart with throat. Now, having said all of that, I think we can now talk about a few things. I want to go back to the prequel to my memoir. And that prequel, again, comes back to Jubal. Uh, at the start of my memoir, it says this memoir describes the 3th-century exodus of the author's ancestors from a mid-1660s colonial past into 21st century America. Importantly, it portrays the power of the double shadow, a force that can create or destroy. Jubal, the forebear of music and a descendant of Cain in ancient Hebraic tradition, is linked to this force. That's why I'm making so much out of Jubal and the chakras and the brainwave frequencies. So Jubal is linked to this double shadow. The shadow joins together the mind's unifying motif of fides, Fides, trust and fidelity, and the human group memory with its mirror image, complementary flip side, the ever-present divisive phobos, which we see more often in fear and envy situations, a fear and envy motif of tribal pecking order. This is a circumstance that has agitated and shaped human existence since Eden. The shadow motif is central to art, love, relationship, philosophy, education, religion, health, and of course, music, from philharmonic to jazz. It is also central to the mathematical sciences and technology. The double shadow is implicated in humankind's either or, us against them, labeling urges like cultural divide, woke, race, gender, and other hyperbolic crap. Happily, a universal both and them are us spirit is stirring in the land. Now, I'm holding up my cup in salute to our listeners and viewers because this cup contains chocolate milk. Actually, it's chocolate almond milk,
Oh,
so, and what it does
I got some milk in my coffee.
as I sip, it brings memories
Hmm.
of my past,
Yeah.
but it also brings memories of a future that has not occurred yet. Now, if that
Yeah.
sounds like nonsense, you're correct. It is nonsense, but it's beautiful nonsense.
Wow.
When I drink this chocolate milk, it takes me smack dab from this
Hmm.
desert, or I'm sitting looking out the window at these beautiful desert mountains, this
Hmm.
Mojave desert setting. And it connects me to what's across to the west of here, the mountains that separate where I am in the high desert from the Los Angeles, Southern California, San Diego basin. But it also connects me to
Mm.
my childhood way over there in Los Angeles, 140 to 150 miles from where I now sit. Now, what was going on at that house that I grew up in when I was like 5 years old? I moved into that house when I was 3 years old. But there were times when my mother wanted to give her three little children a treat. And one of our favorite treats was chocolate milk. So when I drink chocolate milk nowadays, I think of all of those precious memories of my mother and my father and the neighborhood in which we live. Now, that's a pretty interesting phenomenon, but everyone has it in their own lives.
Yeah.
There's something they'll go to listen to a piece of music. It'll take them back to past time. When they eat a certain food, they put on certain clothes. It has certain colors. The cars they sit in have certain colors, but it takes them back to a time that gives them happy memories. Now, the
Wow.
whole first part of this goes back to a longer ago time. And I wrote this when I lived in Georgia. And
Yeah.
I described this several weeks ago about the Garden of Eden.
Hmm.
It's a mythological experience. It doesn't mean it was factually true, although many people in their religions, including in my family, take it as true, as factual. And that's okay because it brings alive certain memories that they have that are needed to be brought alive. But this story that I wrote takes place in the deep South, where I used to live, and had I not lived there, I would not have understood a lot of the strange paradoxes going on in today's world. And so that's what it deals with is the founders of Eden are sitting there on the porch of Eden around a table on the porch. And I gave them names that we're familiar with from our Judeo-Christian heritage, like Elohim, Jehovah, James, and John. And there they are As we look in on them, they're seated on the great porch of the Garden of Eden in
Aw.
quiet reflection while watching events unfold on
Yeah.
distant Earth after what we call the fall of man and the abrupt departure of Adam and Eve from Eden's paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of traditional stories from
Yeah.
different religious traditions about the meaning of that. And I have my own that I want to share some of now. The Eden Quartet, it's like they're watching
Yeah.
uh, television. Um, now, I hope you can still see me because there you are.
Yeah.
There you are. I've got to get you back here.
Gotcha.
Okay. This can get tricky sometimes.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to get back to the Zoom.
All right. I see you perfectly.
Do you see me and you can
Yep.
hear me?
I see you and
Okay.
hear you. Yep.
Well, let me go forward with what I um hold on, we'll get there. Okay. Well, the Eden Quartet noted many things concerning humankind's difficult transition, including heroic projects for survival and procreation of progeny. They note humanity's triumphs and civilized state, development of agriculture, science, the civilized state, law, and government. Can you still see me there?
Yes. Go ahead. You're there.
You can see me. Okay. They note humankind's foolish, endless wars for treasure and empire, and especially in the handling of any and all relationships based on race, class, and sexual labels, and life's other dualistic categories of the ego.
Okay.
And well, they're labels.
Mm-hmm.
They're real. At least they seem real to us because we use them all the time. The mythical quartet is fascinated by the development after the fall in Eden over gobs of millennial time through the 21st century CE, where we are today. They note successes and
Mm-hmm.
failures in conjugal and non traditional group, cultural, and corporate alignments. Among untold legions of mortals,
Okay.
some open to
Cool.
the narrative concerning atonement, but others not.
Okay.
The Eden Quartet sees the intersections between mortals and their predictable responses to unpredictable, what we call acts of God, and how people have responded across areas of existence. Especially fascinating to the quartet are human efforts providing for their survival needs. We've been doing that ever since. Their development of poly and monotheistic religions as a template for shaping secular societies, politics, charities, and morality,
Mm-hmm.
and how achieving a modicum of power and control
Yep.
in their lives and how their creation of unnecessary complexity resulted in misery and pleasures around nearly everything mortals touch.
Oh,
Drugs,
wow.
unseemly entertainments, and technologies were a hoped for panacea to
Yeah.
address the most vexing challenges. Even they led unwittingly to far greater complexity and finally chaos
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day. In response, mortals depend upon not themselves, but rulers, and secular heroes to save them while blissfully ignoring how social media, among other
Mm.
distractions, have led to mental health issues, physical ills,
Yeah.
and disease. Attempts to address challenges posed by increasing complexities resulted in unseemly behaviors and legislative actions, culminating in even more complexity and misery, especially in education and social welfare.
Mm-hmm.
This outcome was anticipated by the insights of 19th century physicist Ludwig Boltzmann and his equation for predicting entropy. Now, entropy is a big scientific word meaning chaos, basically
Mm-hmm.
chaos. Then came the mythical quartet's observation of a promising, if strange little app called artificial intelligence, or simply AI. In the early 21st century, AI promised both revolution and redemption, but every revolution brings the seeds of destruction as well,
Mm-hmm.
thus revealing that double shadow in the dual human experience. And that was the rub, the surprise appearance of dualism in Adam and Eve's new awareness of their nakedness. And this
Mm-hmm.
alerted the Eden Quartet that they had eaten of the so called forbidden fruit,
Yeah.
a certain tree of knowledge, a sure sign of algebraic group theory and life's thorny dualisms of good, evil, light, dark, female, male, and life, death,
Mm-hmm.
while their ejection from Eden. Now let's see, that was cut off somewhere. Where is this?
Very good.
Oh, I know.
And just so everyone's
That's
aware, Dr. Grant Venerable
hold
joining
on.
us here live today. Continue.
Okay, what? I want to talk about how we got to this point
All right.
in the conversation with these labels.
Okay.
And I think the first label I want to tackle is something everybody wonders about, and that's the label of race.
Mm.
RACE.
Yep.
And the first thing I'm going to do is going to explode it. I'm going to blow it up
Ooh.
because it only exists
Mm-hmm.
in the human intellect.
Yep.
The only way it exists in the outside world
So true.
is in the word humanity.
Mm.
And in the word humanity, we're reminded that there's only one race,
Yeah.
and it's called the human race.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We get so many God-forsaken races.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that people settle into a comfortable habit
Mm-hmm.
wherever they originated in the different geographies of the world to speak of people that were not of their tribe.
Yes.
And they would occasionally visit tribes, oh, maybe 20 miles
Mm-hmm.
away. Now we're going way back like a quarter of a million years. And they would see people of other tribes. And those tribes had names. So if you go back to the Judean Israel area that's been there for thousands of years, there were hundreds of tribes
Mm-hmm.
around there, and they had different names. What happened is by long-term usage, it kind of lapsed into a comfort zone where instead of tribe, they would just say, oh, the races of the English,
Yep.
the race of the Norwegians, the race of the Nigerians, the race of the Japanese.
Yeah.
And it was okay because people understood what they meant. And
Mm-hmm.
all it meant was people that lived over yonder instead of
Yeah.
right with you. And it was just a quick, easy way to refer to them. And that worked until things happen in the world.
Yeah.
And technologies develop. Technologies based on a original Greek word for art, the art and the skill of doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And as with what the Eden founders were seeing, is that where people were gravitating toward other intentionalities
Yep.
than just surviving.
Mm-hmm.
They'd say, hey, that group over there, tribe B, they've got some things we can use.
Yep.
So we run short of food. Let's go over and get some of their food. And if they don't give it to us, let's figure out some things we can develop to overwhelm them so we can take their food.
Oh.
And if they follow us and bother us and try to get their food back, we can protect our food that we got from them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you multiply that over the ages
Yep.
up to this paradoxical name called civilization, in which we develop so-called civilized behavior that
Mm-hmm.
was based on, guess what?
Yep.
Food, how to get
Really?
food,
Wow.
how to feed ourselves,
Oh my goodness.
how to survive when the weather's bad, how to shelter
Yeah.
ourselves. All these things we had to learn how to do. And in learning how to do it, we develop what we call civilized society. And we develop ways of governing our own tribe, our own civilized tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what built up. Well, things got really complicated in time. Once we developed like chariots, we developed sailing vessels.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the Mediterranean, uh, European and North African nations developed sailing ships. They developed the compass. They developed gunpowder. They
Yep.
developed things that they could use to take themselves somewhere to trade with somebody, their goods for your goods.
Mm-hmm.
And time passed, and the thing we traded also changed. We started trading in people
Mm.
in certain parts of the
Interesting.
world. People in that part looked a certain way, and they looked different from us who had the sailing
Yeah.
vessels in the European region. So we learned about people. We tried to sail down what we call the coast of Africa. But that was a treacherous coast. That was difficult to do. It took nearly until the time of the 1400s when the
Wow.
Portuguese befriended some of the people who lived in those coastal regions and figured out how to get in there and trade, do some commerce. Well, as things developed, trade developed in terms of needing things in the Americas, this new world was learning how to grow things like cotton and tobacco and sugar cane and things that they could trade with European countries, and then there would be trade to African nations, and
Yeah.
the trade shifted to people.
Mm-hmm.
They said, "Well, come on, let's get some of these people to come back to the New World."
Yeah.
But they were happy; they had a home, so they didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
come. So we
Ah.
said, well, let's just take them. We'll just
Yeah.
take them. We'll put them on the ships. Might take us a couple of few months to get over there, but we did that.
Yeah.
That shifted the whole idea of race
Wow. Yep.
to one, a definition based upon what you see with your physical senses.
Yeah.
And it turns out those folks in Africa and other parts of the world tended to have darker skin complexions. And somebody said, hey, that's a great categorizing
Yeah.
basis. So let's say, okay, so we'll take these over in Africa. They're the
Mm-hmm.
darkest ones we've ever seen across the world.
Yep.
So let us justify a reason for taking them
Yeah.
because you think, well, you don't want anyone taking us,
Yeah.
so we assume they don't want anyone taking them. So we turn to our religions to give us the basis for doing this
Wow.
and say, well, they're not part of our religion and they're not Jewish or Christian, they're not this or that. So we'll make up reasons. And so
Ah.
one of the reasons is that they're not of our religion
Mm.
and they're not a lot of what we're not, what we are. And then
Ah.
we develop this totem pole, as some anthropologists have called it, and that's a totem pole of skill and intelligence. And so we'll just declare, well, those who have the darkest skin have the lowest intelligence.
Ah.
If you
Horrible.
don't believe me, go read the history of anthropology. That's
Okay.
where it all is. That's why that's become such a controversial issue today,
Oh, wow.
because those of our nations that want to keep that system of
Hmm.
subjugating other people based upon their skin color,
Yeah.
that's what we have to do. And
Yeah.
we'll call that a race.
Yeah.
But it's not a race because you have Nelson Mandela down in South Africa. He could be the same race as anybody up in Sweden based upon certain physiological characteristics.
Yeah.
And there's certain characteristics of Swedes that are identical to biochemical markers we see in Zulus in South Africa and other tribal people down there. So what do you use for race as a signal marker? Well, you
Hmm.
make up one and just say, okay, this is it. We're
Yeah.
not going to worry about biochemistry and all that.
Hmm.
So that's what we're stuck with today. And
Ah.
it has plagued us ever since. And
Wow.
so as we try to do things to undo all of that error and mistake, uh, it's led to controversy and struggles in
Sure.
who we elect to lead us and all of that. So so that's where what kind of questions, Jill, does that raise for you and our listeners?
Well, I mean, about skin color, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's such, discrimination has existed for so many years, but I just want to double check what you said. So you were telling me back in the records in the book in anthropology and these writings, it was actually documented that people with darker skin were less intelligent. Did I miss that?
Yes.
Okay. And that was from who specifically?
That started with a bunch of intelligent guys who were the founders of anthropology and
Were
this
they
in
were they all
1700s.
Caucasian men?
They're what we call Caucasian, yes. And they were invited by the rulers of their countries. Come on, let's look at some ways we can justify having races and then
Yeah.
taking different races to carry out certain functions. Now, that's just come to light in a big way in the last week. That was the big news at the one of the big political conferences. I think it was in Tennessee. One of our senators from Missouri was that's one of my ancestral states
Yeah.
talked about that very openly that America is exceptional because there's only one race that's really qualified to do anything of use. And that race is very light skinned.
Ah.
And so we don't have anything to do with people of other races. It's hard to believe. There it is.
Yeah.
And my family is an example of people who are diverse group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was a good example of that when, okay, here he got admitted to Caltech 96 years ago. No,
Aw.
he was admitted 96 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was admitted because they didn't have things today that are called DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which
Mm-hmm.
have been called upon to help us admit qualified students in the universities. But here was my dad. They had to admit him because he did among the best of the applicants on the exam, the entrance exam in mathematics. So he graduated because he was so darn smart.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of blew apart all of the belief systems of people that were attaching
Amazing.
skin color to intelligence. Otherwise, how do they explain this guy,
Yeah.
Grant Venerable Sr.? They can't. So they
Aw.
pretend that it's not true or he never happened or
Oh,
never
that's
existed.
horrible.
So I think that's kind of like the grand conclusion of put out there as a homework for listener who listen, read carefully,
Ugh.
go look at the names, just Google, enter anthropologist, and it'll tell you all of the parties that started the system. And some are some of the most famous people we still know. Even Darwin made his contribution to that dark legacy. Um, there's too many names for me to really just recall immediately, but they're all online.
Yeah.
And they were the greatest, most respected people of their day.
Mm.
And today we have other people that have shown us new knowledge, saying that we now have to depart from that old knowledge, which wasn't true.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so where does that leave us now? We're about, uh, I think, Jill, you have to be the one to represent the listeners and
Oh,
say, you already asked a few questions here. How do we know? Who are they? And so I'm up here in the desert to help spread that word through my memoir because they're all listed in there.
and tell us about the memoir for those that don't know yet,
The
Grant.
memoir is entitled Footprints in the Chaotic
Yeah.
Unknown, which I didn't name until I was done with the memoir. It had a whole different title when I started back in 2011. But when I saw the things it was actually predicting from the experiences of my ancestors who come from at least 3 or 4 continents. They come from the continent of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Another half of them come from the continent of Europe. And another little piece, significant piece, came from the Cherokee people in this country.
Yeah.
And then there's a few miscellaneous people. But that's what happens when you have this diverse kind of heritage. Those genes operate together in new and different ways and bring new forms of genius and intelligence, which have been reflected in my ancestors of all of what people refer to as racial groups. And there is a certain descendant of the European side in my family who didn't graduate from Caltech, but he works for Caltech as one of the top data engineers in the world on the James C. Watt telescope data on astronomy. But his ancestors come from the same place and the same family that my African ancestors come from, which is real, paradoxical, and back to Jubal. The best things come from diversity.
Yeah. How do you feel society as a whole now in 2025 is doing with diversity?
You
In
know,
your, go ahead.
it's going to be take a little longer, but it's going in the right direction. I mean, in the direction that is going to correct itself. And that's how I keep despair aside, because I'm not despairing. I'm not one of those who despairs, oh, we're going in the wrong direction. We're not. We're going through what any complex system goes through when it self corrects. And when that correction, well, it's already happening, and you
Mm-hmm.
see it in places like go into the Afro American Museum
Yeah.
in Washington D.C. that some people are now trying to dismantle. It's just its exhibits on the truth of history. And
Yeah.
look who goes in there.
Mm-hmm.
I went in there last April, and the
Uh-huh.
first hours it's open, it's mainly people who visually you would identify as as African American heritage people.
Yeah.
But as you get into early afternoon, it becomes much more predominantly people of European heritage in appearance.
Yep.
That's not published in the news media. You don't read
Yeah.
about that in the
Yeah.
papers, but it's happening.
Oh my goodness.
And you
Oh,
have to be in the right places to see it happening.
yeah. Whew. Well, I'm
So
glad there's been progress made, and in these memoirs, I want people to know more. That don't know who Grant is, because in the beginning we didn't really introduce you. So if you don't know, hopefully by now you've Googled him, and he's very modest about his accomplishments and his work. Speaks highly of his father, and really, we should be speaking very highly of you and all of your accomplishments too. So clearly, it's genetics, and it runs in the family. Your dad's intelligence, right?
certainly was.
Yeah.
And he trained his kids to
Mm-hmm.
use their intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used mine, my sister and brother used theirs, and their descendants are using
Yep.
theirs.
Mm-hmm. Well, we still have more time together. What else did you want to make sure we cover for today?
What I read just a little review on Robert Reich's latest book called Coming Up Short. Well, it's a
Mm-hmm.
play on words, which is really clever.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Reich was blessed as a shorter than average American male. He's a professor at UC Berkeley in
Mm-hmm.
economics. He's I think one of the smartest people in the world.
Yeah.
But he's referring to coming up short in making
Mm-hmm.
sure that our democracy survives. And in his fears, as many academics fear, we're coming up short in
Aw.
saving our democracy and not looking in the right places or listening to the right people. And I don't mean right politically. If you don't know it, right politically means it came from the French Assembly, the French General Assembly in the 1700s. The more conservative people were
Mm-hmm.
on the right side of the chamber, and the more liberal people were on the left side of the chamber. That's all that means. But the left side was more interested in the rights of the common people to make sure they survived. The right side was more interested in the rights of the property classes and the wealthy classes. So we have the same divisions, but they have different justifications for their methods today. And that's what I could say right now. But look at Reich's book also, Reich. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm also saying, look at Venerable's book. They're
Yeah.
saying basically the same thing, but in different ways from different points of view. Mine is from the point of view of the natural sciences and mathematics, how we
Yeah.
can use that to predict the
Mm-hmm.
human social future.
Wow. Oh, well, Grant, you've helped so many and you continue to do so, and you're nonstop with this. And I love that you are just a workaholic, right? Your whole life you dedicate to helping others. And clearly, with all your knowledge, I mean, what other message did you want to get out today to your audience?
Uh, say that again, Jill. I forgot to put in my hearing aids.
Well, I said, what about your the rest, of our listeners today? For all your knowledge, is there anything else in particular that you want to make sure we cover for today?
What I would say is that my interests have been science, mathematics, anthropology, religion, philosophy, psychology,
Mm-hmm.
mythology, but mainly psychology, science,
Yeah.
mathematics, and religion, because those are the big drivers of what happens in this civilized world.
And if anyone out there obviously has any questions, we still have time for that. The lines have been open 631-307-4031, 631-307-4031. What is next on your journey, Grant?
Oh, what's next is to get all my boxes unpacked so I can
Yes.
organize because I work out of an organized system that's the subject of a previous book called Managing in a Five-Dimension Economy, uh, charting using the Venn matrix to chart the American future, something like that. But it's managing in a five-dimension economy. And that's the theory I developed
Yeah.
after years of teaching chemistry that applies to human social systems.
Mm-hmm.
And it charts out what happens when systems evolve to higher complexity. Well, what they do is they have homeostatic mechanisms to pull them back from their complexity because if they get too complex, they collapse.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening to us today. And that's why Reich wrote his book, Coming Up Short. But I wrote mine to say how we can come back to
Yeah.
greater intelligence simplicity. And one is we just can't invent everything we want to use just because it's inventable. And that's what Silicon Valley did. What's going to
Mm-hmm.
make us a lot of money? Because so now we'll have a computer that fries our eggs and cooks everything and cleans our house for us.
Yeah.
Just because we can do it doesn't mean we ought to do it, because it may destroy us or impede us anyway.
Ah.
And the same things happens in government. And
Mm.
of course, politics is supposed to respond to human need and to make it possible for humans to live productive and
Mm.
healthy lives. And that's what the preamble to our Constitution says is the
Ah.
purpose of the Constitution. So the legislators have to pull back, whether they're on the right or the left side, of trying to solve every problem with new legislation. And the Supreme Court needs to start minding its own business from getting into all that stuff of injecting its opinion in to its decisions. And then there's uh, one more branch. Well, the executive obviously does apply to the executive, but uh, that's all my book is really saying. Is really saying, keep it simple, stupid, or keep it simple, you intelligent, beautiful creatures,
Yeah.
because we are intelligent and we can be beautiful with our intelligence.
Mm.
It doesn't mean don't try to solve your problems. It just says don't be complex about it.
Yeah.
We've got plastics all over the oceans now,
So true.
and it's killing the fish.
Yeah.
So when
Ah.
we eat salmon, it's full of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So my friends in economics are saying, come on, people, let's use our intelligence.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. How can we contact you? Would you mind sharing all forms?
Uh, Grant D. Venerable, PhD, all lower caps.com. And that gives my email, VENTWO at AOL.com.
Perfect. And in closing today, I want to thank you for always being here and making conversation that makes us really think and, to acknowledge your father, all he went through, and, the path he led. Back then is pretty impressive, all his accomplishments and how he
Really?
continued his success and didn't get hindered
Yeah.
by anyone. So thank you. And that's just,
Oh, you're welcome.
no, I
You're
have a family
welcome,
member who
Jill.
dealt with a lot of discrimination and recently, and it makes me so sad. And to know that, yeah, you've
Yeah.
worked so hard and done so much. And thank you so much for that, Grant.
Welcome. Well,
Great.
thank you, Jill.
You have a fantastic day. Always a pleasure having you. And again, congrats on being our professional of the year. We will see you again next week, I think, right? Same
Okay.
place, same time.
That's
Thank you,
what I'm
Grant.
looking forward to. Okay.
Sounds good, Grant. Thank you so much. Bye
All
bye.
right.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.